All right, so we're going to talk about the agendas with some comments, and this is something that you would use in an office if you were in, say, a situation where there was um, working at the hospital and they were having a meeting for the directors, and there was probably 10 of them. So all the admin assistants were creating the agendas together. So you would send this back and forth, and they can add comments or track changes or something like that. And together you're creating the agenda for their big meeting that's coming up. So there's always in a lot of bigger companies and corporations, you'll get a lot of sharing of information. So it's always good to understand how that works. So, what we're looking at right now is the agenda. And I'm going to go over how to create it first, and then we're going to talk about the comments and changes and stuff after. So, first of all, I like to turn on my show hide button all the time, and we'll talk about our agenda. So, like any other business document, we're going to start with three enters, and we need to make sure that our three enters are at standard size font, size 11. If you changed your font to size 28 before you hit your three enters, so you just look, if I change this to size 28, is no longer a 2-inch top margin. You're down now to a 3-inch top margin because you got your 1 inch from your header, you got your 1 inch here, and another inch here. So you need to make sure if you're changing your headers or starting anything you start with is done with plain font right at the beginning before you make any size changes. So, with that said, we would create our title and our headers, which I'm sure you guys can do with your eyes closed at this point. And this is a standard layout for an agenda. So you're going through the time the meeting starts, how and and the highlights of what's going on in the meeting. You're hoping to have this completely clued up in an hour and a half. So you're basing everything on that. So, with that said, I want to talk about the tabs that's in here. So, as you work your way down through the document, you would do your headers. You notice that there's no tabs whatsoever. Once you get down to where your document is going to start, this is where your tabs are going to be put into place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert right here because there's no tabs. I'm going to insert a new one just to explain how to put the tabs in place. So if we're going to put in the time and say we're going to add something at 10 o'clock, and now we want a tab and we want it to be at the 1 inch mark. So we just simply need to click the 1 inch mark, and that will give us, oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen again. That will give us a tab there. So then when you hit your tab, you will get your standard. And if you hover over it, you will get your standard left tab. Now, if you notice, we're going to just say good morning for quick ease here. Now we want a dot leader tab and we want it to be right aligned. So they're going, if you look right to the end. So we are going to put another tab right to the end. So now if we double click on that tab, it will open for us. And that will give us our tab dialog box. So this is where we can change the tabs and the left and the right and add the dot leaders. So we want this tab to go right to the end. So we want it to be at 6.5. So let's just put one in, 6.5. And we want it to be a right aligned tab. And we want it to be a dot leader tab. So now when I say okay, this will set that tab or will set that tab. This is the one I clicked in. I don't want that one anymore. So we can clear that one. All we need is the 1 inch one and the 6.5 right aligned and dot leader tab. So when I say okay and I hit tab, it will go right to the end. So what it means is when you type now, your text will be lined up at the right. So everything will be aligned at the right. Whereas if you noticed right here, everything is aligned at the left. So once we hit If I hit enter, all my tabs will carry through to the next line. So if I said at 10:10 tab, so this being a left aligned tab, everything is going to be moving to the left. Okay, so everything is going to align at the left and tap to the right. And when we hit this with a dot leader, it's going to be the complete opposite. So that's the difference in your left aligned tab and your right aligned tab. Everything will line up either to the left or to the right, depending on the tab you set. Okay, so make sure you pay attention to your tabs and learn how to use left and right and dot leaders, because that will make a very clean, crisp agenda, and you can use it in a lot of other things as well. Table of contents, introductions, anything. So I'm just going to leave that there. Now we're talking about comments. So if I sent this to you and you said, well, I need to ask you something about that, we can just use comments. So comments is found under the review tab, show comments. So if you wanted to send it back to me and say new comment, and you can say maybe uh, Sue should do the introduction. Okay, so now we've made that comment. So now when I post a comment, that comment is now here. So when that document goes back and forth, there's comments for each person to review and to see and to discuss. So it's just a way to make a comment um, something visible for you guys to see. If you were doing a live, if you were in the meeting taking your minutes live and going over and helping your boss, this is things that you could put in as your comments just to say, okay, before he gets up to speak, want to remind him, don't forget to hand out the proposals or whatever the case may be. So comments are a great little tool. You can turn them off and you can turn them back on and you can delete them as you're done with them. And yeah, so I want you to practice and play with the comments because these are handy little tidbits of information and easy way to use it. So when you're doing your agenda, make sure you're going to start with a 3-inch enter, and then there's 2 enters here after before you start your typing. So 2 enters means 1 blank line. Okay, so that will take care of that one and our comments. So let me stop sharing that, and I'm going to share a different document now. We're going to do an agenda in a table. Okay, so here is, if you're working through your module here, this is going to be 84-D3. And this is a sample of an agenda done in a different format, a different style, and it's just done in a table. So all you have here is you've created a table instead of using the dot leaders and the tabs and stuff. So it lines up beautiful. It's the same concept. It gives you the same spacing. The different color banding, the different color odd and even lines is a great option because it makes it easier for visual to follow your lines across. And you can do the same thing. They have, again, put their comments in so people can respond and comment, and everything is recorded in the comments. So as you work through this module, I want you to practice this style as well. Okay. Now I'm going to move into lesson 85, and we are going to track changes. Find it. Okay. Okay, so we did touch on this, I think, when we did our share documents, and I can create another folder in the discussion area for you guys to share documents again if you want to see what it's like when you track changes and stuff. But what track changes is, again, it's under the review tab, and this is where you're going to keep an exact note of who's commented where. So you're sharing this document, is being sent back and forth, and you're recording who is tracking changes. So if we turn on our track changes, it'll go gray. And then you will notice that each person who tracks the changes, it will show up. So the, there will be a line through something when you delete it, and the new text that was entered is there. So if I decided I wanted to accept these changes, I like this better, I would accept it. And once I accept it, you'll notice it all goes away. The original goes away, the deleted text goes away, and the new proposed text all goes away because I have accepted it. The same thing is going to happen if I reject it. If I reject it, the deleted text will no longer be deleted, and the new suggested text will now go away. So this is how you can send information back and forth. And once your track changes is on and you record something, so please review the comments. So if we change that to feedback, you'll notice that it's now changed. And when I sent this to you, you would be able to click on that and accept or reject my comments or my changes. And you would also have it pop up over here and show you. So the different colors would generally mean different people edited it. My least favorite word in the English language dictionary. Edited. So anyway, it would give you a different color for each person, and then you can easily see who student A's suggestions, you can see what Susie's suggestions are, you can see what my suggestions are. And then if you were the one in charge of the document, then you would be accepting or rejecting all the changes as they were recorded and sent to you. So the only way to really be comfortable with this is to play with it, get used to it, send it back and forth to one of your classmates. Just, I can, like I said, I will create a folder if anyone wants to post a document, and hopefully somebody will throw in a change for you and track changes for you. But the main thing is you need to know that they are all different colored. Each time you click on it, it will tell you who created it, and it will tell you, give you the option to accept it or reject it. And you keep a complete record until your final document is done. And it's all done right here under the review tab, and you turn on your track changes. Okay. That The only other thing I would like to point out here is the different display reviews for here. So what we have is all markup. So all markup shows every proposed change in the document. And this is the one that I would recommend to leave on, because simple markup will show you your comments. So if you hit the drop down arrow, oops, and you choose simple markup, it will just record everything in the comments, but it won't exactly highlight it in the same way. And no markup shows the document how it would look if all changes were accepted immediately. So when you are trying to review and record and see what everybody else's suggestions are, it's very important that you make sure this is on all markup so you can see everything. Okay. And then if you were getting overwhelmed, if there was a lot of markups, going on in here and you want it to say, okay, wait now, I'm getting overwhelmed, and you turn it on no markup, then you can read the document and see if you like all of the changes that were proposed. At this point, you might say, okay, everything is perfect. All right, I'm good. So now you can go back to your all markup and you can work your way through and accept all the changes. So that is covered in lesson 85 with this. So make sure you review this and have a look at the um, track changes and how to accept and reject and collaborating with other people and all that fun stuff. So now I am going to jump into minutes. And here is Here is a sample of some minutes. So this is what you would see in drill 1 here in 85, lesson 85. So this is actually what you're going to see on page 4-11. So I just want to review how this is laid out for you. So what you have going on here is the exact same thing. You're going to start with 3 enters and you're going to make sure you put your 3 enters in before you increase your font size. And then you would do your headings however your boss or the text or your office wants your headings to be put in place. Some may want no change in font size, some may want no change in color. So there's all kinds of ways. You're just going to have to work with whatever the person wants. So now this is one style of minutes. So what you've done here is you've gone through that agenda actually that we talked about, and here it is. So the person who recorded the meetings are saying, okay, so Mary presented at the board meeting and is just a very quick summary of what happened in the meeting. So each time you change a topic, you're going to a new line. These are set up with headers, but like I said, it depends on how the person you're doing the minutes for want them. When you go into an office, they generally will have a minutes file that will show you exactly the layout of how they want their minutes done. So, and that could be for anything. If you're into volunteer, if your kids were into sports, if you were doing on some executive for anything, everything takes minutes. So, and everybody does their minutes differently. So, it's really something that you just have to learn to adapt to and work your way through it. So when you're working your way through lesson 85, it talks about the track changes and stuff again, which we just covered. So again, it's just a review of a minutes and how it's going to be laid out and give you a couple samples. And I want you guys to work your way through that. So now we're moving into nothing till I get on the right screen, the itinerary. So once we're into the itineraries, and you're into lesson 86 here, this gets more into some track changes. So what I want you to realize in these track changes, this is probably a better example. So it talks about the different coloring and the layout and how to accept and reject and all the same things. But if you go into your pop-out box for your track changes, so whenever they say open the pop-out box, that means the little arrow in the bottom corner of that group on the ribbon, that gives you your pop-out box. So if you were on the home tab, there's a pop-out box for font. So if you're looking for font features that's not included in your little group there and you went into the pop-out box, you're going to see there's more options here and more text effects, and you can change everything into it. So the pop-out box is the little arrow. So right now we're into the review tab and we're looking at the pop out box for tracking. So we're going to pop out that box and it goes over the advanced options. So in order to get to the advanced options, you're just simply going to click the advanced options button. And what this does is just gives you a summary of the things that you can change. Now, this is covered for you in module, lesson 86 on page 4-14. And you can just read through this and see how you can change it. But you can change the colors that's being used and the way things are edited in the track changes. So we're not going to make any changes because I'm happy with everything there, but I want you to know that's where the changes would be. And then same thing, you're just going to work your way through a minutes and you're going to accept and reject some of the changes and you'll click on it and you'll see who made the change and what was inserted, and it'll tell you exactly everything. So this is got a double underline. So this is just something new that was added. And this is a great way to do minutes because if there was more than one office admin in that meeting, you could send it to your cohort here and you could say, here, have a look at the minutes and make sure I didn't miss anything important. And they may add something for you. So again, I want you to work through that. And next, we're going to jump into the itineraries. So we have an agenda for a meeting, we have the minutes, and now we're going to go into an itinerary. So an itinerary is generally involves all your travel. And so an itinerary is going to be used when you're planning a trip for somebody. And I just need to find the document. Second, I don't have that one open. There we go. Okay. So this is the itinerary that is on page 4-17 in your text. And this talks about the travel plans and how the best to lay out the travel plans. Now, some people will lay it out just like we did when we did the agenda with the dot leader tabs, and that's fine too. It all depends on what works for you and what's currently used or the choice of whoever's in your office. So for an itinerary, you're going to do the same thing. You got your 2-inch top margin at the top, and then you have your title. And now you start by clearly defining what is happening. So this is a trip. So we're going to go from Chicago to Atlanta and the date. Clear, straight across the top. And now you have more details. So on Wednesday, now we got to break it down exactly what's happening and key points along the way. So at 8 a.m., you're going to take your flight. And so the time is clearly listed under the date here. And then the details are over to the right side. So now you're going to say, this is where you're going. This is the flight you're leaving on. This is the flight number. You're going to arrive at this airport at this particular time. You're going to get a taxi to this hotel. And here it is. So This is exactly what you need to be including in a itinerary because it needs to be very quick, very laid out for you. If I take a personal family trip, I do this because I don't want to be, I mean, I'm like a crazy traveler and we take trips with all of our family and we have all kinds of fun, but there's nothing consistent about my travel. I might we might fly somewhere and then we're renting a car and then we're going to spend one night in this hotel and then we're going to have 3 nights in an Airbnb in this location and then we might have 2 nights in another hotel in a different location. And when I'm traveling and I'm like trying to find all my reservations and all my reservation codes and I'm very thrifty traveler, so I'm always looking for the best deals in the hotels and Airbnbs and whatever. So nothing is consistent. I'm not traveling and always staying at a Comfort Inn or not, whatever. I'm like, whatever works for us in that location. So when I do travel and we take some family road trips, our like we could have 5 or 6 different hotels. So I'm always wondering, oh, which hotel's coming out? Where's the address? Where's it located? So I actually do this. It makes traveling so easy for us. And then the next day, I know that night we're going to this hotel and this is the address. So we can just pop that right into the GPS and I don't have to be going through 10,000 emails looking for my reservation code and trying to find out what I booked when. So you can use this for anything. You can use it for your personal life, but you need to make sure if your boss or somebody in your office is traveling that you put all the vital information into an itinerary. So you are going to be including things like your flight, you're going to include the address, you're going to include the hotel name and the hotel address. You're going to include times that they're supposed to leave and take and times they're supposed to arrive so that if they're very quickly looking at their itinerary and their flight is delayed, they know exactly how much they're delayed by. You're going to include meetings that's happening. So if you're going to land at 11 o'clock, you could have a meeting at 3 o'clock. So you need to make sure that's in there and the location of the meeting. So they are not arriving 2 hours late from a delayed flight and then getting to their hotel room, throwing their bags into their room and wondering, where is this meeting? And standing up in a hallway, opening all these messages on their phone, looking for where the heck this meeting is. No, it needs to be very clear, very concise in one easy spot to look up. And this is vital for consistency and smooth of travel when there's all these hiccups comes at you, like flight delays, or if you're traveling by an air by taxi and there is an accident on the freeway. Like this is stuff that makes life easier. And a lot of times you can even include the phone number of the person they're meeting with as well, so that if they are delayed, it's easy for them to phone the person. So this has a Wednesday schedule. So this is your travel information and your hotel, and then this is the meeting information. And then you're into clearly dating the next day, and this is what's happening the next day. These are your meeting plans, and this is you have a scheduled dinner with these people, and then Friday you're going to have breakfast at the hotel with these people, and then you have another flight departing at this time. So an itinerary is a summary of all the vital information and keep it very neat, organized, concise, to the point, just just the meat and potatoes. Don't fill it up with too much fluff and stuffing. All right, so this is one layout and there is lots of different options. This is done in a table. So you can see, and I don't know why my screen is locked up here, but you can see that all these different this is all a table, so it's all done in different blocks, different cells. So that can be one style you're using. You may choose to use a different style like the one shown on page 418. I don't know if I have that one open. Let me open that one. There you go. So this is another example. So it's again very clear, very concise. I love the bandit bars because it makes it easy to see what's happening next in different times, especially when you're into busy days like this one. All the different things is happening. So when you work through these itineraries, I just want you, this is just more practice with tables, really, and setting up itineraries and how it's all going to go. So the format is the same as any business document. Make sure you start with 3 blank enters at regular size font, and then you start with your table and your title and all the stuff. So work your way through itineraries. This stuff can have track changes too if necessary. And then we are moving into our last topic for today, which is going to be news releases. And let me find the document. Here we go. So, a news release, this is a super short module, it's only like 3 pages. So, what we have going on here in the news release is a it's just something that your office is releasing. It's information. It happens all the time. You'll hear it on the news every night you listen to it. There's a press release from Eastern Health. There's a press release from the MUN. There's a press release from the school boards. There's something. So this is an actual document that is released. It's usually posted on your website and then it is sent out to the media. So whoever in your office is in charge of press releases or news releases, this is how it does. So at the bottom of a news release, it always ends in 3 hashtags like this. Always. That means that this is the end of the document. And it, or it could end in dash 30 dash. And that is an exact substitute for the 3 dashes, for the 3 hashtags. So it would be centered and it would be dash 30 dash. And that would mean that's the end of the document. Most commonly used right now is the 3 hashtags. And other than that, in a news release, you use these M dashes, which means it's 2 hyphens together. And when you're typing text, Word will automatically convert it into an M dash. So I want you guys to have a look through. This is literally a 2-page lesson. So that covers all the main topics that I wanted to go over and all the little tidbit details that's inside of each of these different things for travel documents. So you've reviewed your agenda and minutes and itinerary. So if you have any questions, you guys know where to find me.